Alrighty, good morning, Tyson's Home Farm and Auto shoppers. We are live from Cascade, Iowa, and Beringer Family Farms, where it is feeding time. And so I've got a special guest here with me today, Lillie Beringer. Lillie, thank you for taking the time to kind of show us around your farm today, but introduce yourself and let us, tell us about the family farm.
All right, everybody, my name's Lillie Beringer, like he had mentioned. We farm outside of Cascade, Iowa here. I'm a third-generation farmer. My grandpa started it in the late 1950s, and then it was kind of my dad and my uncle. And then just recently, I kind of am in the transition of taking over the farm. I bought my first farm in March, and I kind of help my dad now with it, and we're just in the process of wanting to feed cattle right now. So what you're looking at here is 300 head of feeder cattle that we custom feed. So what that means is we don't own these cattle. I take care of them for a different farmer, and then he refills our yard every time that these ones are ready for harvest. I guess the reason why we are doing that right now is I'm kind of 2 years out of college, and from a risk standpoint and just purchasing my first farm and just kind of how economics work, it's a little hard to take all of that risk on right now, so that's kind of why we're doing that. In the near future, hopefully, we'll be feeding some of our own cattle. You'll see some of my calves later, and those will be the ones that we're going to be in the process of wanting to finish. So,
all right, Lillie. Well, let's not have them wait any longer. Let's get these boys fed.
Sounds good.
Hungry? I think so. All right, just like that, I think we're pretty close to having all the food out of our right here. Getting the last bit of it out. So these cows, they get fed once a day, according to Lillie. Oh boy. I'm going to slide over here. All right, it looks like that is all she wrote. Now we're going to talk to Lillie a little bit, get a little bit better sense of what's going on here at the farm. All right, so just like that, the feeding's done. So how much was in there when you started?
There was 11,500 pounds in there this morning before we fed. We feed once a day, and we got these in May, weighing around 800 pounds, and they'll probably be ready for harvest around October, when I put everything up.
And so let's walk over here and take a look at what this mixture of feed is for these big boys. What does it all consist of?
So if you can look here, they're on what we call right now the finishing diet. So this is a ground hay, as you can see right here. Corn, there's a little bit of corn in here, and wet gluten mix. Wet gluten comes from an ethanol plant. It's a byproduct of what they're using to make gasoline. So, and then we use like a balancer in there so to make sure that we have their vitamins and minerals in it. So there's 4 ingredients that go into this mix.
Now, I'm assuming we'll see a big rush here at the beginning, but will this last most of the day for them?
Yep. So as you can see up there, they always tend to eat at the front of the bunk right when we deliver a feed. I guess they kind of get a little lazy. They don't want to come all the way down here and eat right away. But what I just delivered as far as feed is what will last them until tomorrow morning. So I usually feed between 6:30, 7 o'clock every single morning. And this is enough feed that will last them through the next morning.
Now, you mentioned this is your finishing feed. So maybe explain what are some of the different types of feed based on the point in time?
Okay, so the ingredients, the 4 ingredients, like I mentioned, don't ever change. It's more, I guess, the percents that we put in. So when these cattle first came in, it's a higher roughage-based type diet just to really get them started on feed, get them eating really well, and then we go through a transition of diets. So this is what we would call a 6-step program. So they came in May, and from May until right now, we've gone through 6 different rations, and basically it's just the percents of those ingredients that change. We start at a little bit higher roughage-based diet in the beginning, and then as they start eating, we transition them to a little bit higher energy-based diet because they're starting to eat and their frame and their weight is ready to add some more pounds onto it.
Okay, so let's take a walk down and maybe you can introduce us to some of these and so explain to us what type of breed we have here.
Okay. So these are all steers. So these are all, I guess, boys, if you don't know what that means. They actually, like I mentioned, they're custom cattle, so they aren't ours that we've grown and raised ourselves. But we do have our own cow-calf herd that I have calves in the spring, which we'll talk about a little later, from a day old, and then we'll keep them all the way till finish. But this specific group of cattle actually came out of Tennessee. So it was a 12-hour truck drive when they had came in. And they came in as yearlings, is what we would say. So they're around 850 pounds. And our target weight is 1,500 pounds at the end that they'll go on. And they are black, obviously. So since we don't raise them, we don't know exactly what their breed is. But there's some sort of Angus type based breed in them, which is where they're getting the black hide from. And I guess the reason why they're all just one color is because when you go to market them at the end, they sell a lot better if they're a more uniform group. So all the same color, and just in general, black hided cattle, which we see right here, sell and market a lot better. And they mostly just from a genetic standpoint in the breed that they have have a little bit higher marbling. They're a lot more efficient when you're feeding them as compared to some other breeds. So when I mean efficient, they will, but by the time that they get here and the time that we finish them, they will convert a lot better and they will gain a lot better, so they'll be gone a lot sooner. That's kind of why we choose to feed black-hided cattle. They're a lot more efficient, and then at the end, they yield better, and they, when you go to your plate that you guys will be eating, they taste a lot better. They have a lot more marbling, they have a little bit more juiciness in them, and they taste really good.
Right now, obviously, with everything going on the last few months with COVID-19, and that's had a pretty significant impact on the beef market. Even though these aren't yours, what have you seen from the farmer's perspective of how that's affected you?
COVID-19 has had a huge drastic influence or impact on all farmers for all sorts of markets, but in the beef market specifically, basically the price that we would buy these cattle at to the price if they left today that we would sell them at, we would be losing probably $300-400 a head on them. Take that times 300, and here we are every single day waking up, feeding our cattle, doing everything that we can to feed the world, but we end up losing money at the end. And it's kind of very hard to deal with because, for one, like I mentioned, I just bought a farm and I am just trying to get started, and if I owned these cattle myself and I was losing that amount of money, I would never be able to survive. So COVID-19 has crashed all of the markets, and it's really sad to say that. It's kind of on the upward slide a couple weeks ago, and then the past 2 weeks it's taken a big hit again, so it's just super volatile. It's really up and down, but I also have a full-time position with Free Animal Nutrition, so I'm a beef nutritionist as well, and all of my customers that I'm working with, just all of the rations and projections that we're doing based on the current markets, we're all in the red. We're all losing money.
Well, obviously something you never want to see. So for you, you're 24? 24. You mentioned earlier, third generation farmer. How many 24-year-old third generation female landowner farmers have you come across, and what is that like for you to experience?
Yeah, to be honest, I don't really know if I know of any other people my age that kind of, especially female, that are doing this. There's a lot of farm wives or females that will help on the farm, but as far as taking on the whole role full force like I'm kind of doing, I guess I've been told it's kind of rare. I don't really know any different because that's just what I do every single day. It's what I love to do. What kind of sparked my interest in farming and wanting to take over the next generation is my grandpa is he's my hero of everything, I guess. He's the reason why I started everything. Really, since I was like 2 years old, I was attached to the hip with Grandpa, and I went to cattle sales with him. I mean, I did everything else on the farm. So just from a really young age, it's kind of all that I've ever known, which is kind of why I have the passion and drive to be doing it. Grandpa passed away in 2014, and so we've kind of just gone through a huge transition of things, and I'm actually one of 5 in my immediate family, and my 3 brothers don't necessarily want anything to do with the farm, which is fine. Everybody has their own interests, but I've kind of just always been the one that's been known to be the old farm girl. My punishment growing up was actually having to stay inside the house. I was always found outside. So that's kind of what started and what we're kind of to do. My plans with what I'm doing in the future, obviously, like I said, I just purchased my first farm, and it kind of is near and dear to my heart because it was my grandparents' home farm. So it's where basically where it all started, and we'll be going to that a little later, and I'll be able to show that. But I have my cows out there on pasture, and I obviously am super educated, and I'm very driven to want to educate the different consumers. So I really think the farm to table story is super important, and I love sharing my story, sharing what we're doing. Obviously, the gap between farmers and consumers is a lot bigger these days than what it used to be. So I want to be able to share that story, and then the whole end goal at the end is being able to market our product and sell our beef individual cuts to people like you. So we are in the process of getting that finalized. I'm about a week away from being able to launch our website, Beringer Family Farms, you can't see here, and then we're going to be able to ship our beef all the way across the country. So kind of my goal and what I'm thinking is I'll have 2 options. So if you're local, you can have local pickup of our meat right here on the farm, or if you're not, we'll be able to offer different bundles to be able to ship it to you. So that's kind of the shift that I'm wanting to do with the farm. We'll obviously have cattle all around all the time, and we have a spring herd and a fall herd that will be able to market beef and have beef available at all times throughout the year. And yeah, that's kind of the direction that we're kind of trying to go with the farm.
Now, and one last thing, and then what we're going to do is we're going to actually switch over to our Instagram channel. But one thing, Lillie, that I wanted to definitely get your input on is the 4-H program. I know I saw last week you were at some showings, I believe, I'm assuming you were a part of 4-H growing up, and we're, Theisen's is supporting the 4-H at the Dubuque County Fair next week.
Awesome.
Really quick, Tracy says, good for you. I'm sure your grandpa is so proud of you. You are what Iowa is all about. Good luck on your new farm. So thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
So with the 4-H program, your experience with it and how you continue to support it today.
Yeah, so just a little background on 4-H. When you're in 4th grade, you can join 4-H. So I joined as a 4th grader, and I was in it all the way till my senior year of high school. My mom was actually a leader for it, and I did everything involved with 4-H. So I took cattle to the fair, I did horses, chickens, brought my donkey, I did flowers, garden, brought projects, we did clothing. So 4-H is a huge impact on my life. I was involved in all aspects, obviously, and now actually kind of how I'm giving back to the 4-H program is I am now a leader. Obviously, I'm too old to be involved in 4-H, but now I'm a leader to different people in the Richland R&R 4-H Club is what we have in Jones County. And so 4-H is such an awesome program. It teaches you so many different things. You can basically anything you'd ever done, you could be able to show at the fair or bring to 4-H. So, just from communication skills, by being able to talk to the judges. If you're going to sew, you could learn how to sew. You could bring food, or if you want to get involved in any type of animals, any animal you could bring to the fair. So I do have a big drive and push towards 4-H, and then I also was in FFA throughout high school too. So the 4-H and FFA program is an awesome way for young people to expand their knowledge maybe more into the agriculture industry if they're not already taking part of it.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but it's more than just individuals who want to be farmers, right? There's a lot more to it.
Absolutely. If you don't have any animals or you don't have any background in it, it's a way for you to possibly learn. If you want to make some sort of food, you could bring it to the fair. If you want to refinish a cloth or a dresser, or if you want to make any type of home improvement, or if you want to do some sort of visual arts, or you want to do welding, really anything that you could possibly think of, you would be able to get involved with 4-H. You do not have to have any type of agriculture background at all to do that.
All right, well, we're going to wrap up here. I've got 2 more comments. Lou says, way to go, Lillie. Excellent job. So proud of you. And then Nicholas, is that a family member?
Yeah, my brother. Yep.
So he wants to know, ask her what age Dad taught her to drive the Jeep. I'm sure your viewers would find that interesting.
So yeah, like I mentioned, literally since I could walk, I've been outside, and we won't be able to see it right now, but there was a little path that Dad had made when we were younger that would take us off the highway that we could drive the golf carts and the Jeeps on to get from where we currently are to where I was mixing feed earlier. It's just not even a half a mile up the road. But I was probably like 4 or 5 years old when I was driving the Jeep up and down the road. You could hardly see over the steering wheel, but I've been literally driving equipment, doing everything on the farm since I was very, very young. There was actually one time in the winter the Jeep couldn't make it back on the trail, so I had the old farm truck, and I was actually up here, kind of where that chute is up there, because I was going to be opening gates for Dad, and it was icy, and I slid the truck into a bale, and I broke the guard on the front of it, and I was so scared, because I was like, Dad's going to yell at me. I think I was like 6 years old. Well, obviously he wasn't upset. He was just glad that I was happy and I was healthy and I didn't get hurt at all, and he's like, that can always be fixed. So we never were on the road. We always had our own little paths, but I've been driving since I was pretty young.
And now you're driving full-size tractors.
Right,
so
exactly.
All right, so Facebook fans, go ahead and hop over to our Instagram channel. We're going to be going live there in about 10 to 15 minutes, and Lillie's got a lot more to show us here at the farm. So we'll see you over on Instagram. All righty, Theisen's shoppers, we are over at a different part of the farm, still in Cascade, and we've got some company here. Lillie's with us once again. I want to thank you for those of you that hopped over from Facebook. And Lillie, what are we looking at here?
Well, what you see behind me right here is my cow herd. As you can tell, they're very friendly, and they're wondering if we're going to give them some grain, which is why they came up. But we're currently which is the farm that I had bought in March. This whole farm is pasture for my cows, as you can see here. So kind of how the whole year-round program works with the cow herd is I have 60 spring calving, pretty much Angus or Angus crossed mama cows, which is what you're seeing right here. The bigger ones are the mama cows. Their purpose is to get bred every single year and have a baby, which is all of these calves right here. So these mamas all they calved and had their babies in March and April of this past year. And then when the grass is ready in late May, they get moved out here, which is where we currently are right now. So right now, they're just out on the grass with their calves. The calves are drinking, they're milking, they're growing. Right around October time is when we will wean the calves off of the cow. So they'll get moved home, they'll get separated, and then basically what we had seen in the Facebook Live where those feeder cattle were eating, that's what these calves eventually will do. So from the day they were born in March, it'll take a year, 14 months is a good range, that they'll start, and then they'll go and be bigger animals. Bigger animals like those ones over there, and then they'll eventually go to market. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit of the process of that.
Looks like, is that our bull there?
Yep, there's 2 bulls right there actually.
Okay.
Yep. They're purebred Angus bulls that we use to breed back.
Do we lose 285?
285 is
Oh,
where'd she go?
she's hiding. So as we look
she's
for
right
her,
over here.
what's the story of 285?
She's just my favorite cow, right here. Watch out, girl.
Move out of the shot.
She's just so pretty. Can't you tell? So, she has a white face, as you can see, where some of them are all black. So she would be what we would call a crossbred. So she's an Angus crossbred with 2 different genetics, Simmental and Hereford. And the reason why we do that is when you add crossbreeding or heterosis into your program, you're bringing the best of different traits all together to try to create what you would say is the perfect cow. And I think 285 in my eyes is the perfect cow because she produces really well. If you can tell, her calf is sucking right now. She milks really good because she has a really big calf, and she has really good, what we would say, docility. So her attitude towards me and not wanting to hurt me is very good. She breeds back every year. She's structurally sound, so when I have 110 acres here that they have to roam upon, they need to have good legs and they need to be able to move the way that we need to. So I really do love 285. I love all of my cows, but she kind of has a special place in my heart.
We got a comment from Nicole asking if you know Glenn Brown. He has pure breed Angus out of Farley.
I do, correct. Yeah, he sells bulls every year. I haven't gotten a bull from him, but I have quite a few customers that have gotten some from him before. So
all right.
We do try to support all of the local people in their program if it fits into what we do.
So you were telling me a little bit about how you've trained them, right? So
yeah.
Normally you come out here on the gator and you've got some different feed in there.
Or a horse.
Or a horse,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
When you're not shooting video, you're on the horse, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And so they know when the gator comes around that there's probably food there. Hence why everyone's gathering around the backside of the gator.
Now.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So this farm is 110 acres that I had bought on my grandparents' home farm, like I had mentioned, and I seeded everything down to pasture. So instead of them just getting to graze and roam all 110 acres, I set up rotational grazing. So basically what that means is there's 5 different areas in this 110 part that are all fenced out. So they're only allowed in a certain part before we move them to the next part. So each paddock is what we would call it. There's 5 that got sectioned off in through this, is around 30 to 35 acres. So the cows will be in a section of grass that we see here for, depending on how the grass is, a week to 10 days. They have currently been in this area or this section or paddock right now for 9 days, and we actually need to move them today. We might be able to do this on the video, or I'll need to move them later. So the point of having the grain and the gator is they're trained to me. So I call my cows if they're not around, which we call them this morning, and I go, "Hey girls, here boss," and then they just come running. So then they're trained to just follow me around. So we do that to go to the new areas. And the reason for rotational grazing is I move them before the grass gets lower than 6 inches of height, because it allows proper rest time for them to grow, for the grass to grow back better and have better quality to extend our grazing period. So the cows, like I mentioned, will be out here from May until October, maybe November, depending on how our grass is, and the rotational grazing helps with that. And it just allows me to be able to run more cows on the certain acres that I had. So before we had bought this farm and before I had set it up for rotational grazing, I was only able to run 20 cows on everything because they could just go wherever they want. Then they pick what they like to eat the best, and they'll eat that down to the dirt, and they'll leave the other stuff. And it just doesn't allow you to have as long a grazing period, where now I'm running 60 cows on the same amount of land because I'm able to rotational graze. So it kind of is in a pinwheel that we do it at. They're in this section. They're going to be moving over that way, over the hill today as I move them. I don't think we'll do that on video, but if you follow along on the farm page that you see here, I do show videos of doing that. And then the areas that they just came out of will be sitting for 3 weeks to hopefully a month. Each section does before they go back in there. So then they basically have all new fresh grass when they move.
So educate us, over where we were before, over on Facebook Live. You ran the tractor down and you had that feed there and kind of in that concrete trough. Do all these cows here, all they do is eat the grass?
Well, so obviously Iowa, we have winter, and so we will try to keep them out here on the pasture and the grass as long as we can, but then when there's not enough grass left and weather hits, they get moved back home to the farm that we were just on. We'll actually take it back. So in October, or November, depending on how the weather hits, and once corn is out, farmers are harvesting their corn, we will turn the cows out on the corn stalks, and they will graze the leftover corn that the combine didn't get, and they'll graze the stalks. So they'll be on there for a couple months, and then prior to them calving, which is in March, they'll get moved back home in one of those yards where the cattle are, and then they're just close and in the buildings during calving season in case something happened. If there's a calf coming backwards, or one of them has twins, which we had 9 sets of twins this year, or if there's any type of issues, they're just there and close that I can be there and help and be able to hopefully save that calf's life or the cow's life, or just really closely monitor them. So they're only at home and in the yards maybe 2 months out of the year. They spend the most time out here on the pasture, and then once the calves are weaned in October, like I said, they'll go into the feed yard kind of like we had done before and show that.
Now, I just noticed we've got what looks to be a calf back there of a different color. So explain what that's about.
So 192 is not a purebred. She has some Simmental influence in her, and the Simmental breed originated and started as red color. And so she has a 1 out of 4 chance of having a red calf based on heterosis and how the Punnett square works because of how her genetics are. And as you can see, she had a red calf this year. So even though she's bred to a black bull, if he isn't, he could be a purebred, which he is, but since she isn't, because of how genetics works, there's a 1 of a 4th chance that she could have a red calf every year, and she does.
Well, and I'm going to flip this around because I feel like I've got someone right behind me. And I do. He's checking me out, make sure I'm good news.
Yeah,
what do you think?
That's 28.
28? Do I pass the sniff test?
Yeah. So.
I gotta say, like I was telling you earlier, first time I've ever been in an open field with some cattle, but I'm honestly really impressed with how docile they all are.
I wouldn't say that all cows and calves are like this, but because my cows are my babies and I love them so much, and because of the rotational grazing, and always just being around them and handling them, they are pretty tame. Yes.
And who is this right behind you that's got an interesting
So this is
pattern?
actually my mom's cow.
Okay.
We call her roan cow. Basically just from her genetics. We don't even know where she is. When we had bought her, she was just out of a sale barn, so I don't even know what kind of genetics she is. She's a cross of a lot of things that cause that type of color.
Okay.
At some point, I would like them to just be all straight black, kind of like how they are in the feeder cattle, but we have a little bit of color right now, and that's just
Diversity.
Diversity, exactly, yeah. So, like I had mentioned, these calves right here will eventually be, at some point, 14 to 16 months down the road, go to market, and this is what is in the final process of being able to offer my product, the genetics that I have, the work that I put in to be able to sell to you. So we're going to be finishing some of these cattle out and getting them processed and be able to sell the meat to you guys.
Now, I from what I can imagine, a lot of times what you learn about running your own farm is passed down through generation. But you also, went to college for Iowa State for agriculture. Yep. So how much that you know today do you attribute to your education, and how much do you attribute to your upbringing?
So obviously I've grown up and learned a lot of this, and then I got a 4-year degree at Iowa State in the animal science department. So I guess it's probably a good combo of both. You learn what you've grown, and then you're able to apply some of that to kind of the more technical stuff that you learn in school, and then you get to compile all of that together to then be able to have what you have here right now.
Awesome. Well, before we go and we get some additional video and maybe some photos, anything that we missed that you want to make sure our followers know about your farm?
I guess if you guys had any questions, feel free to reach out. But like I had mentioned, I'm very passionate about what I do. The reason why I kind of started promoting what we were doing on social media is just to share the farmer story. Sometimes farmers get kind of a bad rep if they don't treat their animals very good, or we don't care for them. And as you can tell here, I absolutely love my cows and my calves and what we're doing. So if you have any questions at any point, make sure you reach out to the actual source. Reach out to a farmer like myself that's wanting to be able to answer your questions, have any type of questions you have, because that's what we're here for. We put our pride and joy and lifestyle into these animals and what we're doing. And as I mentioned earlier, we're currently losing $300 some a head on it, but we're still getting up every single day and doing it because it's what we love to do, and it's what we have always known, and we take pride in raising a really high quality premium product for you guys to be able to safely and healthily be healthy feeding your family. So I would just encourage you to always, be open-minded, ask questions. That's what we want to do. So I do follow along Beringer Family Farms on Facebook or Instagram. I would love to be able to just kind of show you what we're doing every single day. I do try to post daily updates all the time, and we'll be launching our website, so we'll be hopefully be able to ship beef soon or pick up local if you're on the area.
Now, we did just get a comment in from Holly.
Okay.
Is Holly
my sister?
your sister? All right. So Holly wants me to ask you about the time she was charged by her cow. Funny story.
So, like I mentioned, all of these are very tame, yes, but when I first started, you get improvement every single year. The cows that I had bought were just out of a sale barn, and I didn't know their background. I didn't raise them. We didn't know how they were, and one of them just got a little protective, which is understandable when we as humans have a baby. Sometimes moms can be like, crazy airplane mom, don't go find my kid, and cows are the same way. So when the first and second day of her having her baby, we always want to try to put an ear tag in them so then we can identify the calf to the cow, because once you have 60 calves and if they didn't have any type of identification and they're all black-hided, how do you know what is what? Well, we are trying to get the cow separated from the calf to be able to process it, give it its intranasal vitamins that it gets right away when it's born, and she did not like that. So we got a little too close, and she came after us, and she get me across the bale feeder and was kind of like charging me, and thank God my sister was there. She pulled me up into it, and I got out of there, and we were safe, but it was very scary, and we did not keep that cow around for very much longer, because we did not need that kind of liability and that type of stress around here. But you got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter what you do, you got to start somewhere.
Exactly. Well, Lillie, thank you so much for allowing us to come onto your family farm today. Hopefully we're back soon. I know I would love to be able to come back and see the progression, because you know, clearly what you've been able to accomplish here in a short amount of time is really impressive, and you know, I can't help but think it's going to continue to grow. So we're gonna.
If you guys ever had any questions or wanted to come out and stop out, I love to show people around. So definitely open to it.
Absolutely. So we're gonna end the stream. We're gonna try and get you a little bit of without getting too close, try and show you, you know, our audience that's been paying attention here. So this has been Theisen's Home Farm and Auto, live from Cascade, Iowa, and Beringer Family Farms. Lillie, thank you again, and let's go see if we can move some cattle.
Come on into Theisen's, more for you.